Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I am Judith. Atibi. This is News Now. The top stories at this hour. Elder statesman Edwin Clark calls for arrest of FCT Minister Nyesom Wike over threats to set fire to states governed by PDP governors. Julius Abure-led executives disown Labour Party's new caretaker chairman. Burkina Faso drops ECOWAS logo from new passport. Details shortly. And we'll begin with political matters. The leader of the Ijaw Nation, Edwin Clark, has asked the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, to arrest the minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, over his threat to set fire to states governed by governors from the People's Democratic Party. Wike had on Saturday, while speaking at the PDP Secretariat in Port Harcourt, the state capital, during the party's state congress, warned the PDP governors to stay clear of the party's affairs in Rivers State. In a press conference on Thursday, Clark said the words of the minister marked a flagrant disrespect to the person of President Bola Tinubu, describing his comments as unbridled, and added that his comments were a form of treason.
The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun. My dear IGP, arrest Nyesom Wike now with a warrant of arrest. I want to begin by saluting your continued service of our country and that of the very many gallant officers of the Nigerian Police Force who daily stay awake to keep our nation safe. However, I want to add my voice to that of millions of Nigerians who are incensed at some recent development in the polity, which require your urgent attention. That is, with respect to the recent open threat by the Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, who happens to be the former governor of Rivers State, to set fire in some other states. As some men who were in the audience would have reported directly to you, Nyesom Wike made this open threat to other 12 PDP governors while attending a called Bad Congress of the PDP in Port Harcourt on Saturday, 31st August 2024. There is a High Court ruling in Port Harcourt in suit number PAC/2282/CS 2024 against that exercise. Instead of vacating that ruling through an appeal, Nyesom Wike's group went to another court of coordinate jurisdiction in Abuja and got a ruling to hold the Congress. This is a completely wrong court process. I should not be allowed to stand. For as long as the first court ruling is persisting, the PDP Congress held by Wike and his men remain a nullity.
And now to the Labour Party leadership crisis. The Labour Party LP has been plunged into further turmoil as the Julius Abure-led faction disowned the newly appointed caretaker chairman Nadi Usman. Now, despite a previous Court of Appeal judgment affirming Abure as national chairman, the Labour Party National Convention constituted a caretaker committee, sparking controversy. Earlier, Senator Usman was declared as the chairman of a 29-member National Caretaker Committee of the Labour Party. Reacting, the Abure-led faction rejected the caretaker committee, insisting that Abure remains a legitimate national chairman. A statement signed by the National Publicity Secretary Obiora Ifo described Nadi Usman's appointment as illegal and unconstitutional.
The committee also notes that assuming, without conceding, that the tenure of the current National Working Committee has even expired, we must state clearly that it is not the responsibility of Dr. Alex Oti as governor of Abia State to convene a NEC meeting for the purposes of setting up a caretaker committee. It is still the responsibility of the national chairman and the national secretary of the party to convene such a meeting. He will not hesitate henceforth to discipline any member of the party, however highly placed, who is not ready to obey the constitution of the party and indeed obey the lawful directive of the leadership of the party. In this regard, the National Working Committee went ahead to set up a standing disciplinary committee. Consequently, it is our view that for anybody to hold the opinion that there is a vacuum in the leadership of the party is not only mischievous, but a deliberate attempt to cause panic, to cause chaos, and to disrupt the smooth workings of our great party, the Labour Party.
And now to react to this, we're joined by Counsel to Labour Party, Monday Mawa. Monday, it's good to have you join us this afternoon. Let's get started, shall we? I mean, just looking at all that's going on, I have to ask, how does the Labour Party's constitution address the removal of replacement of key positions, such as the chairman, and what procedural steps must be followed according to the party's governance framework or constitution?
Well, thank you very much for that question. It's unfortunate that the Labour Party, that is supposed to be an alternative party to both PDP and APC, had decided to become a laughingstock because of some selfish interests of some few individuals within the parties. You see, there is a very popular decision in the case of PDP and Ozigbo, where the Supreme Court clearly stated that the party and its members are all bound to adhere strictly to the provision of their constitution. So as long as you are a member of party, no matter how highly placed, you are subject to the provisions of the constitution of your party. Now, the Labour Party constitution clearly provides for how meetings of the party can be called or convened or convoked. And the only person that has the authority by the constitutional provision of the party to convoke any meeting of the party, whether be it a NEC meeting, be it an NWC meeting, whatever meeting, it is only the chairman of the party, the secretary of the party, with the permission of the chairman of the party, that can call for that meeting. Now, again, let me also take you back to the fact that as a president or a presidential candidate of a party, you are only a member of the NEC of the party. I am not a member of the NWC. The NEC is the National Executive Committee of the party, while the NWC is the National Working Committee of the party that is in charge of the day-to-day working or running of the party. So being a governor or an ex-governor, being a president or an ex-president, you are not a member of the NWC. And therefore, you have no right to call any meeting of the party. Now, again, I will blame all of this happening in the party on Julius Abure, with the greatest respect to him. He refused to listen to reasons. Otherwise, we will not be where we are now. And also, I also want to add also that everything happening at the moment also, Peter Obi cannot claim ignorance of it. He cannot be exonerated from it. Why am I saying so? If you have been following critically the issue in Labour Party, right from when the FCT High Court on the 5th of April 2023 restrained Abure and 3 other principal members of the party, you won't believe that Peter Obi, a leader of the party, went to join Abure to convoke a NEC meeting in Asaba on the 18th of the same April, just 13 days after the restraining order of the court against Abure. And then some of the newsmen asked Peter Obi during the NEC meeting in Asaba, held in Asaba, on the 18th of April, that what are you doing here? And he made a statement I can never forget. He said, well, Abure is my man.
Monday.
Of a court restraining Abure.
Monday.
Peter Obi join Abure to conduct.
Monday. Now,
Yes.
let's jog our memories back to that time. Wasn't that because of the Lamido Apapa incident of him saying that Abure was not the actual leader of Labour Party? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was during this incident. Correct?
No, it was not a Papa issue.
Okay.
If you can recall, his word from Uromi suspended him at that material point in time. And don't forget, politics is local. if you are going to be an executive member of, if you are going to be anything in a political party, either a secretary, a PRO, or whatever, you must first be a member of the party. So position in the party is a privilege of being a member of the party. So the day your membership in the party is suspended, whatever position you are holding in that party automatically is suspended. You can also see the case of Oshomole and his ward during when he was suspended by his ward, as at the time he was national chairman of APC. So Oshomole was suspended from his ward and immediately he was excused.
All right.
Abure was suspended from his ward. Obi said he should continue as the national chairman.
All right.
But today, this Abure has become like a monster that they have themselves breathed up and they are unable to contain him.
So let's away from Peter Obi and whether he should be exonerated or not, let's just stick to what we know here. I have to ask you, what authority do Julius Abure and his led executives have in disowning or challenging the legitimacy of the newly appointed caretaker chairman? And again, how is the authority defined within the party's internal regulations?
Thank you. First, like I said, I've tried to differentiate two organs of the party to you, the NEC and the NWC.
Okay.
All members, the governors, former governors, president, former president, deputy president, whatever, they are all members of the NEC. So no members of the NEC has the power to call any meeting for the party. So the only people that can call meeting are members of the NWC. And in that NWC, it is only the secretary with the permission of the national chairman that can call for NEC, for any meeting, not just NEC, any meeting of the party. So the point I'm making is this. The question you first ask is, what authority, which provision of the law empowers them to call for any meeting of the party? The governor of Abia State, with due respect to him, is not a chairman of the party nor a secretary. No elected members of that party are members of the NWC. So the meeting they had yesterday, of course, we are all praying for the issue with the Labour Party to be resolved. But illegality can never beget legality. That is the only issue I have with yesterday's meeting. Of course, Julius Abure is having issue currently. He went to Newi to conduct a convention that eventually brought him back again and himself, another person, as executive of the party. Of course, some of us we have disowned that convention. Even with myself, I have disowned that convention. But the point is this: we must look at it from the legal perspective. Nobody, neither the governor, neither the Peter Obi or any other person there yesterday, has the constitutional power to call for any meeting. And if you have no power to call for any meeting, any resolution reached on such meeting can never be a legally reached resolution. So that's the point we are making. So this is trying to beget legality through an illegal means. And the law is that you cannot get illegality, can never beget legality.
Well, Monday, I must say thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today and giving us and putting your bit of insight there and perspective on the matter. We'll wait to see how this continues to unfold for the Labour Party. But one statement you made was very correct. There's been a lot of in and outs or topsy-turvy turns for the Labour Party. Hopefully, there will be some sort of straightening out. Again, Monday, many thanks. Monday Mawa is the counsel for Labour Party, and he joined me today to discuss the matters with Labour Party. We're going to a short break here. When we come back on the other side, fuel price hike and amidst surging prices of petrol and the scarcity, plus the queues after the break. And you're welcome back. To updates on the current fuel scarcity amidst soaring prices across states in Nigeria, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited, NNPCL, has suspended the sale of petrol to independent marketers following a price hike to 855 naira per litre. Now, this led to protests in Delta State by commercial tricycle operators. Meanwhile, 3 vessels arrived at Apapa, Lagos to discharge imported petrol amid growing fuel scarcity. The hike left commuters stranded nationwide as few queues worsened. Many commercial drivers stayed off the roads, citing the soaring prices, with some states seeing rates as high as 1,200 naira to 1,300 naira per litre. The Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria expressed frustration over the lack of communication from NNPCL despite having paid for products months ago. Marketers now resort to private depots selling at even higher prices. In the meantime, Vice President Downstream at the Nigeria National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, Adedakpo Shegun, has announced that the Dangote refinery will receive an additional 17.8 million barrels of crude oil between September and November this year. According to him, this is part of the government's push to boost local petroleum production. NNPCL has already supplied 30 million barrels to start the refinery's operations. The Dangote refinery, led by Alinko Dangote, confirmed it is now ready to release petrol to the market. Adedakpo clarified that while NNPCL is currently the sole importer of petrol due to forex challenges and pricing issues, Dangote refinery will sell to other marketers when conditions improve. NNPCL will act as a provider of last resort as mandated by the Petroleum Industry Act. Away from that, the National Economic Council has issued a deadline of Monday, September 9 for 4 states to submit their reports on the establishment of state police. The NEC aims to adopt comprehensive reports from all 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory on the matter by Monday. Addressing State House correspondents after the NEC meeting, which was presided over by Vice President Kashim Shettima at the Presidential Villa in Abuja, Oyo State's acting governor, Bayo Lawal, confirmed that all states are expected to submit their reports for consideration.
Sometime in the past, NEC considered the establishment of state police and asked states to make submissions for consideration. Today, all the states were supposed to submit for consideration of the NEC. Incidentally, 4 states couldn't submit, and for that purpose, NEC decided that those states must make their submissions on or before Monday next week. Otherwise, whatever decision NEC takes on the establishment of state police will be binding on those states that refuse to submit, to make submissions. So that is the resolution.
The Nigerian Army has underscored the need to improve the effectiveness of weapon handling and readiness for combat by troops in the fight against insurgency. This was made known at this year's second Shadow Range Classification exercise, set aside to assess the serviceability of the arsenal of the Nigerian Army. The exercise, which took place at the 3rd Armored Division shooting range in Plateau State, was to mark the end of the 2024 biannual event under the General Officer Commander 3 Armored Division and Commander Operation Safe Haven, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar. We'll bring you this report later. We'll move away from that now to more news here. And this time we go on to more, this time economy. President Bola Tinubu has praised the growing economic partnership between Africa and China, highlighting that trade between the two regions has reached an estimated $280 billion. According to President Tinubu, despite the global challenges we faced, whether the economic or geographical, the partnership has stood firm, resilient, and offering a powerful example of what can be achieved through respect for sovereignty and non-interference. Now, he went on to say, quote, "One of the highlights of this collaboration has been the flourishing economic partnership between China and Africa has grown exponentially, reaching an estimated $280 billion end quote. Now, leaders from across Africa have gathered in Beijing, engaging in bilateral meetings with Chinese President Xi Jinping. During the summit, Xi announced over $50 billion in financing for Africa over the next 3 years and pledged to enhance cooperation in infrastructure and trade, marking one of China's most significant commitments since the pandemic. And now to health matters. Nigeria's National Economic Council has tasked state governments to set up a food and nutrition task force aimed at addressing the problem of acute malnutrition in the country. Now, this was made known by the Minister of Health and Social Welfare while speaking to newsmen after the council meeting, saying NEC has mandated states to make budgetary provisions to cater for this challenge in their 2025 budget. Our correspondent Idong Joseph completes the report.
Following the recent flooding that has ravaged communities and taken a toll on Nigeria's food ecosystem, the production of food in the country has indeed taken a major hit. This recently has led to acute malnutrition, putting the lives of millions at risk. The federal government thus established a task force to enhance coordination aimed at tackling the scourge with the state governments.
Key decisions were taken to include a food and nutrition security task force, which we have already established at the federal government level, but states will also mirror that, which is a multi-sectoral governance and coordination platform.
Shortly after the National Economic Council meeting in Abuja, Nigeria's Minister of Health and Social Welfare urged states to start planning to mobilize resources via their next budget proposal. He adds that over 1 million doses of nutritional supplements are already being distributed to nursing mothers for free.
And to ensure that the resources begin to be put in place in 2025 budgets as we come towards that cycle, we are distributing multiple micronutrient supplements that have been mobilized free. 1.3 million doses have already been distributed, and each one of those 1.3 million packages will serve a pregnant woman 6 months. That will be for the mother, but also for her child.
Other members of the NEC highlighted some of the other issues being deliberated upon and resolved by the Council.
The Council also has decided that by Monday, there is also going to be Monday will be the deadline for all the states of the Federation to submit detail of damages, including farms, schools, bridges that have been affected by the last flood.
The Accountant General of the Federation updated the Council on the following accounts. The foreign excess crude accounts is starting at 473,754.47 cents.
The Ebonyi State Governor also gave an update on stabilization and natural resources accounts, which he says stands at over 33 billion and 3 billion naira respectively. The council also set up a task force for the eradication of polio in the country. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
A familiar foe returns to Nigeria as the Mpox virus resurfaces in the country for the fourth time since 1971. Despite its reoccurrence, a startling lack of awareness persists, particularly in the nation's commercial hub, Lagos. News Central's Adeshewa Odushoga reports.
The Mpox virus has again resurfaced in Nigeria after the last outbreak in 2022. This is about the fourth time the country has recorded cases of Mpox virus since 1971. But surprisingly, many Nigerians, especially residents in Lagos, know very little about the disease. For some, it is the first time they have heard anything like this.
But I think it's more like the chickenpox virus, or probably it's more deadlier than the chickenpox virus. but I don't really know, or we've not really heard much about it.
Mpox, monkeypox. Yes, yes. It's transmitted by maybe animals like maybe bush rats and the likes.
Mpox is transmitted through contact with infected rodent, individuals, or contaminated items. Symptoms typically appear 5 to 21 days after exposure and include fever, body aches, swollen lymph nodes, and skin lesions. Most cases are mild, with recovery occurring within a few weeks.
We don't have a specific vaccine, neither do we have specific drugs that will deal with this virus. So they are mainly supportive therapy at this moment.
In 2022, the World Health Organization renamed monkeypox to Mpox to address concerns about racism and discrimination associated with the term.
It's clear that a coordinated international response is essential to stop these outbreaks and save lives.
As of the time of filing this report, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control says it has recorded 48 cases across 20 states of the Federation, including Federal Capital Territory, with 0 fatalities so far. It has also placed Lagos, Abuja, and 7 other states on high alert as part of its surveillance measures.
As we stand now, we do not have any active cases. Why we are worried is that there is a potential that this virus can be imported into Lagos.
As the situation continues to unfold, health officials are urging Nigerians to take precautions, which include avoiding contact with infected animals, washing hands regularly, and seeking medical attention immediately if symptoms occur. In Lagos, for News Central, Adeshawa Odushoga.
In a bid to stem the tide of the exodus of medical professionals in Nigeria, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare unveiled a new national policy on health worker force migration. Adebola Adedugba has details.
It's no longer news that Nigeria has suffered a huge loss of its medical workforce, particularly doctors, to what has now been dubbed brain drain. Owing to this continuous exodus, the Coordinating Minister of Health and Social Welfare, Professor Muhammad Pate, announced a new national policy on the health workforce migration to help bring back healthcare professionals abroad. This policy is hinged on 3 cardinal rules of establishing a streamlined process of registration to encourage return of health professionals by actively reintegrating them into the health system, having a reciprocal agreement with other nations to ensure that the exchange of health workforce benefits Nigeria. The policy also recognizes the importance of work-life balance by including routine health checks, mental well-being support, and reasonable working hours, especially for younger doctors.
Insecurity, equipment to work, those are not yet addressed. Can any of the top politicians, every of those persons in high positions of authority, can they confidently walk into any Nigerian hospital? So we're looking at insecurity, economic state of the country. These are factors that are making people migrate. It's more than just the practice itself. Yes, we cannot bring in other factors such as trainings and health, mental health condition, working condition. But first, let's look at how we can make equipment available.
As the brain drain continues to plague Nigeria's healthcare, with the attempts by government to stem the tide, one thing is certain: Nigeria desperately needs its best minds to come home. The question is, will this policy be the compass to keep or bring them back? In Lagos for News Central, Adebola Adedugba.
The escalating cost of prescription medications has become a pressing issue for individuals, families, and healthcare institutions in Nigeria. This trend has far-reaching implications affecting access to essential treatments, driving up healthcare expenses, and exacerbating health disparities. News Center's correspondent Leko Onabanjo has the details in this report. Take a look.
The escalating cost of prescription drugs in Nigeria has become a pressing concern
This is largely due to the depreciation of the naira and forex inaccessibility, amongst others, as importers have to pay more to secure medical items and equipment.
Our major challenge is access to forex. We don't care whether it's going to be 1,900 to the dollar or 3,100 to the dollar. What we want is availability of forex so that we can address some of the issues bordering on sourcing of manufacturing input, especially raw materials, excipient, and even machineries.
Some of the imported ingredients or drugs are cheaper than the one produced locally. And that has to tell you about the cost of production. And why is that? What is called active pharmaceutical ingredients are also imported, largely from India, China, and Europe, Germany specifically.
Despite government efforts to alleviate the burden through measures such as removing taxes on drugs, the prices remain unaffordable for many Nigerians. These increased costs are often passed on to the consumers, resulting in higher prices at pharmacies and healthcare facilities.
We are living in an environment that is full of things that make us sick. And the only way to get well is taking treatment with drugs. So it just have to be affordable. Drugs just have to be affordable. And there's no responsible government that will do otherwise than to look into what will make drugs accessible and, of course, affordable.
To effectively tackle the problem, a comprehensive approach is needed.
If government can make forex available and government can be sincere with its own policy, I think this industry will be a lot better. Again, government will say we want to patronize Nigeria, we want to patronize made in Nigerian products. The same government officials would rather go and be buying made in China, made in India, which are even of lesser quality.
The Nigerian government can work towards strengthening the local pharmaceutical industry, improve the drug supply chain, negotiate better deals with foreign suppliers, and implement price controls to make essential medications more affordable for its citizens. In Lagos for News Central, Lekon Onobanjo.
Away from that, the Nigerian Economic Summit Group has tasked stakeholders to adopt strategic approaches to addressing gender inclusion issues as a critical step towards alleviating poverty, particularly among women in Nigeria. Now, this was made known at the 2024 Gender and Inclusion Summit in Abuja, organized by the Policy Innovation Center of the group. News Central's Joshua Emarai tells us more.
Opening ceremony of the 2024 Gender Inclusion Summit organized by the Policy Innovation Center of the Nigeria Economic Summit Group. The event saw experts in attendance from across several sectors of the country. The organizers say the event will serve as a point of convergence for stakeholders to examine fresh evidence and create context-specific solutions to addressing the challenges of inclusivity in Nigeria.
By uniting collective power of government, development partners, civil societies, academia, the private sector, and citizens, we aim to inspire collective commitment and focused action towards building a gender-inclusive society.
The theme of the 2024 Gender and Inclusion Summit is very relevant, as we need to urgently tackle the issue of poverty in the country, which we know disproportionately affects women.
Stakeholders at the summit say there is a need for swift and coordinated efforts to advance women inclusion in the country.
130 years. That's the number of years the World Economic Forum has told us to take to achieve gender equality. This is a global average projection. In Nigeria, it may be worse. It may be more than 130 years. Potentially 4 generations to come.
The two-day gathering featured top government officials, civil society groups, and youth advocates aiming to generate innovative solutions and strategies to tackling gender and inclusion issues in Nigeria. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
The Nigerian Army has underscored the need to improve the effectiveness of weapon handling and readiness for combat by troops in the fight against insurgency. Now, this was made known at this year's second scheduled range classification exercise set aside to assess the serviceability of the arsenal of the Nigerian Army. Now, the exercise, which took place at the 3 Armed Division shooting range in Plateau State, was to mark the end of the 2024 biannual event under the General Officer, Commander 3 Armored Division and Commander Operation Safe Haven, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar. News Central's Chizoba Anyowe was there and filed this report. Take a look.
This yearly event is organized and held in all the units and formations of the Nigerian Army across the country. Among the objectives of the range classification exercise is to foster mutual and cordial interagency relationships with sister security agencies through novelty shooting exercise such as this, as well as strengthen collaboration between security organizations on the plateau. Governor Caleb Mutfwang was represented at the event hosted by the General Officer Commanding 3 Armored Division and Commander Operation Safe Haven, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar.
This exercise is meant, like you've been told, to sharpen the skills of our security agencies, their shooting skills, their ability to handle weapons, because that's what makes the difference between a security man and a civilian. And once you don't have confidence in handling your weapon, then there's no way you can provide security to people or have that confidence to engage, bad people. So this kind of training is very important.
Apart from the military personnel, stakeholders, including journalists and civil society activists, were guided in their participation at the event as a way of promoting civil-military relations. One of the retired generals who also took part in this exercise had this to say.
It's an exercise that even goes into their records, and it helps even in the promotion. If you don't classify well and you don't pass it, promotion becomes a problem for you.
Weapons fired by the officers and guests at the occasion include AK-47 rifles, FN rifles, and pistols.
Now, with this range classification exercise over, one would expect that the troops of the Nigerian Army would have also improved in their combat readiness in the fight against insurgency in Nigeria. From the 3 Division, Maxwell Kobe Cantonment, Chizoba Anyonwe, reporting for News Central.
You're watching on News Central TV. We're going on a short break, but coming up, President Faye is set to dissolve opposition-dominated parliament. We'll bring you details after the break. Stay with us.
Et les enquêtes sont en cours. On attend que
And welcome back. The news continues in West Africa, where Burkina Faso has removed the ECOWAS logo from its new biometric passports, formalizing its withdrawal from the regional bloc. This decision, announced by Security Minister Mahamadou Sana, follows sanctions imposed by ECOWAS in response to military coups in Burkina Faso, Niger, and Mali. Sana confirmed that the ECOWAS logo is no longer on the passport, nor is there any mention of the organization. Since January, Burkina Faso has chosen to exit the body. The move reflects a deepening rift between these nations and ECOWAS, which has called for a return to constitutional governance. Meanwhile, ECOWAS chairman and Nigerian President Bola Tinubu continues diplomatic efforts to reintegrate Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali, emphasizing that dialogue remains open. And now to Senegal, where President Bassirou Diomaye Faye is set to dissolve the opposition-dominated parliament in the coming days and launch a vast anti-corruption campaign that could target dozens. This is according to Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko. Former President Macky Sall's supporters still hold the majority of the National Assembly, which was elected in 2022. Faye and Sonko need a parliamentary majority to implement the policies of change they promised on a platform of leftist Pan-Africanism and social justice. The National Assembly cannot be dissolved by the president until it has sat for at least 2 years. According to reports, Faye will be able to do that from September 12th, exactly 24 months after the parliament's first post-election session. We'll go on a short break. When we come back, there's more. Stay here. Hey, welcome back. Police say 4 people have been killed after a shooting incident at Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia, United States on Wednesday. According to the director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Chris Hosey, the deceased were 2 students and 2 teachers. The perpetrator of the shooting has been identified as a 14-year-old student and is currently in custody.
The shooter is in custody. His name is Colt, that's C-O-L-T, Gray. He is a 14-year-old student here at the school, G-R-A-Y. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder and he will be tried as an adult. There are 4.
And now to unpack this, we're joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, I must say that this is sad. There are no words. Heart-wrenching, sad. In the last 2 days, the headlines that you've been seeing worldwide is just heart-wrenching. But tell us the latest from this scene.
You're absolutely right, Judith. A deeply distressing story coming out of Georgia, where those 4 people have been killed in yet another school shooting. It's the 45th school shooting of 2024, and it is the deadliest this year. Now, 9 other people, 8 students and 1 teacher, were wounded and hospitalized. All of those people are expected to survive. However, you have 4 people who died in that shooting. The first was Mason Sharmahorn, a 14-year-old student, Christian Angelo, a 14-year-old student, Richard Aspinwall, who was a teacher, and Christina Irimi, who was a teacher as well. Now, the 14-year-old suspect and his father were actually questioned by law enforcement last year regarding online threats to commit this very act, a school shooting. That's what the gun that was used in yesterday's shooting was an AR platform weapon, perhaps an AR-15 style rifle. And those are the ones that can rapidly deploy bullets and are often used in these types of incidents.
And what do we know about the alleged shooter?
Well, yes, 14-year-old Colt Gray, a student at the high school who is in custody at the moment, even though he is 14 years old. We're being told that he will be tried as an adult. Now, law enforcement were in touch with himself and his father last year. And this was because of anonymous tips that were posted online about threats to commit a school shooting at an unidentified location and time. Now, included in those online threats were photographs of guns. Now, the father at the time stated that he had hunting guns in the house, but the son did not have unsupervised access to them. The son also denied making the threats online. Now, at the time, the police said that there was no probable cause for an arrest or to take any additional law enforcement action on the local, state, or federal levels. Now, it seems that that could have been a grave mistake, that perhaps if law enforcement had stepped in at the appropriate time, perhaps you and I wouldn't be having this conversation. And perhaps those 4 people who died would be alive.
And this just makes you wonder what this would play, how this would play with the U.S. elections in terms of gun control and the debate about gun control. But we'll have this conversation in subsequent bulletin. But Afia, many thanks for doing this with us. We appreciate you for joining us. Uganda's goalkeeper, Maduka Okoye, has admitted that the Super Eagles must be at their best to beat the Cheetahs of Benin Republic. The Super Eagles will begin their quest for a place at the 2025 Africa Cup of Nations with a home game against Garnet Raw's side in Uyo on Saturday. Okoye, who stated that the players are working hard in training, is however upbeat they will beat the Cheetahs. And that's all we can take at this hour. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Elder statesman Edwin Clark has called for arrest of FCT Minister Nyesom Wike over threats to set fire to states governed by PDP governors. Julius Abure-led executives have disowned the Labour Party's new caretaker chairman. We also told you that Burkina Faso has dropped ECOWAS logo from new passport. Now remember that you can send us your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number now showing on the screen. And while you're at it, make sure to follow us on social media. We're at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I am Judith, Atibi.